when they tell you.
Hello, New Orleans, or wherever you may be. It's Wednesday at 4, so we are the Baldy and the Blonde show. I'm Tom Kowitz with the blonde Michelle Godin.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, and we have a lot to talk about today.
Certainly did not start off the right way in New Orleans. You know, despite our president saying over and over again that the number one threat to the United States of America were white nationalists, clearly using all of the power of the Department of Justice and the FBI to focus on old ladies walking through the Capitol to protest, as is their right as Americans, in 2020.
Well, you know what, a lot of those people weren't even doing that, though.
Some people didn't know they were even protesting. They just thought
They
they were
weren't
on a
protesting.
tour. They thought they were on a tour.
Right.
Because they were invited in. 1,600 people have been arrested by the FBI and prosecuted using every means necessary, including triangulation of cell phones. In other words, they picked up little old ladies' cell phone signals, tracked them down. One lady, they kicked her door down in Alaska, right, Tom?
Well,
tell that story.
Yeah, and I don't remember all the details, but it's something like this. There's a woman, and she was not an old lady. She was like a 40-ish woman or something. She lived in Homer, Alaska. I've never been to Homer, and it's not exactly the end of the world, but you can kind of see the end of the world from Homer, Alaska. I think.
Right.
This woman lived in Homer. She was actually in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, but not at the Capitol. The feds went after her, arrested her in Homer, because their clue was that she was wearing a coat similar to somebody who was in the Capitol and wanted for that. So when I researched that story, I thought, wow, she must really have a unique coat that really stands out, but, and was just bad luck that it matched somebody else's. When I looked at it, it was just a regular coat. Could have been anybody's coat, but it matched this one perp. They went after this woman up in Homer, Alaska, and she had done nothing wrong, and it was just the wrong person to begin with.
So
they go to the end of the world to get
literally
for misdemeanors.
The end of the world for misdemeanors. People have been, they've gone to trial. There has not been one not guilty verdict. Now that, as a lawyer, I can tell you, tells you there is something wrong with the jury veneer, that you cannot find a single person who has a reasonable doubt.
You better explain veneer. Not everybody knows that.
Let's just say jury pool. Jury pool. So you have a certain amount of jurors to choose from in Washington, D.C., a city that went 96% this time in 2024 when Biden was crushed. Harris was crushed everywhere else, and Trump won everywhere, all over the country, enough to get 300-plus electoral votes. But in D.C., he still had 20. He still lost, and they had 96% Democrat vote. So what person who was at J6 in 2020 could get a fair trial in that city? No one. Meanwhile, my point of bringing this up is there's several reasons, but the overriding reason is our justice, and I use that word lightly and in quotes, and I'm sorry to do that as a lawyer who has devoted my life to the law and the ethical practice of law. I am so sorry to say that our justice system has been obsessed with tracking down misdemeanor, at best, offenders and using the long arm of the law, the resources of the law, to go after people for minor offenses, if offenses at all, while a guy like Jabbar, the French Quarter terrorist, was operating freely in the United States, making trips in the summer to Egypt for 13 days, and then he comes back and goes to Canada, then he comes to New Orleans twice, and I am sure that had the FBI had a little time in between persecuting J6 deviants, because, oh my God, the end of the world with the J6ers, had they diverted their attention to, say, the defense of the United States of America, including New Orleans, this guy might not have gotten away with it.
Well, sure. It seems like we give the feds an infinite amount of money. It's not. It's actually finite. They have a finite amount of money, a finite amount of resources, but they act like it's infinite. They can go out to, again, they go to Homer, Alaska, to find out it's an innocent woman because they just found her on some video. They check people's earlobes and
piece of
think they got
cloth.
somebody for a misdemeanor. And meanwhile, as you said, real threats are under the radar because the radar's not even turned on. How many right now? How many right now?
Right now. And we're going to get deeply into the Jabbar's walk through the French Quarter in a minute, but I just wanted to set it up. And excuse my voice, but I am recovering from one of the many things floating around New Orleans. Jeez.
Well, let me tell you something.
But wait, let me
go
say
ahead,
one other
sorry.
thing. Is that it's not just J6. They also, the government under Biden, the most despicable human being to ever occupy the office of presidency, a nasty, mean, vindictive, hateful human being who used the department to also go after old ladies playing rosaries at abortion clinics. Okay, and this is not a joke. There's one old lady who's in jail, and her husband begged the judge, please don't put my wife in jail. She's old and she has cancer. And the judge said, well, you people believe in praying. Pray for a miracle.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. So this is the Justice Department we've been dealing with, and New Orleans has suffered tragedy as you can't say a direct result, but you have to believe.
Well, it's pretty straight line.
It's pretty straight line that had our employees, and they work for us, been doing the job they were supposed to do, protect us from terrorists, this is far less likely to have happened because this guy, you can't tell me that people didn't know what he was up to.
Sure. Well, knew or should have known, as they say. And let me tell you, if now our show was for the last 2 weeks, we had Wednesdays fell on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, so we had replays. We weren't able to do shows.
Right.
But let's just say we had a show in the meantime, a few days before that January 1 attack. And you had said what you just did say about the January Sixers and they go to the end of the earth. They go after these little ladies with misdemeanors. And how many terrorists are they missing? Some people would think that sounds like hyperbole. And then New Year's Day we wake up and that happened. That didn't have to happen.
Did not have to
because
happen.
It's happening right now. You can bet. How many people have been coming? Millions have come across the border. We don't know who they are. We know hundreds of thousands are criminals.
They are unvetted. They are
yes,
absolutely
and
unvetted.
the reason that the feds don't know as much about them as they should is because they're spending their time and resources and money doing other things.
That's correct.
That they need not be doing.
And what we're going to talk about today is that Tom and I, as we've been practicing. I'm a lawyer, and Tom's my right-hand man for 17 years. And one of the major things we do in lawsuits is we have timelines, and we take the evidence that we have in the case, and the timeline is really everything.
And sometimes right down to the second, literally to the second.
Times, yeah. And when we do that, as we gather evidence, the case becomes more and more clear. So Tom began last night looking at the FBI videos, which were just posted 2 days ago of Mr. Terrorist walking through the quarter, unobserved, of course, by any law enforcement. And I don't blame NOPD for that.
Of course. Yeah.
The guys who make the zillions of dollars, all right, who did nothing for it. And he reconstructed them in a timeline that makes sense because it's chronological.
Yeah, the FBI's timeline was garbage. It wasn't a timeline at all.
It's on purpose.
Well, probably so.
Yeah.
The reason that I had to, I thought it would be easy. I'll just look up the FBI's timeline.
All right, so I want to interrupt you because I want to tell people, if you want to follow along what we're going to do, go to baldyandtheblonde.com, and the video is posted there. Right, Tom?
Actually, it's not.
It's not?
No, it's posted to our YouTube channel.
I meant to say that. I'm very sorry.
We ran out of time.
Go to Baldy and The Blonde YouTube. I have to talk quick because we're about to lose. Yeah. Anyway, go to Baldy and The Blonde on YouTube. Pull up the video of Jabbar walking through the quarter. And also on Facebook, we have the sketch with the timeline, and we're going to go through it. So you can go to Baldy and The Blonde radio show on Facebook, and We have the sketch with the times, and then it goes with the video.
And the reason it's important is because, as you'll see and hear in our next segment,
There's a
something
lot
doesn't add up.
There's a lot of questions.
And we knew going in, probably things aren't going to add up because they never do.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they
And
don't.
later, we will do this in a video format and post it, but we're on the fly today, so we at least, give you a shot to walk through it.
Were we on the fly? We usually spend a lot of time planning things
didn't have
and
time.
discussing it. I don't think we discussed anything. We just ran to the studio.
Right, yeah, we just said,
Each did our own separate thing and
let's go.
hauled ass, as they say.
That's it, hauled ass. All right, so pull up your sketch on baldyandtheblonde.com. I'm sorry, that's not true. Baldy and the Blonde Facebook. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. Today we are walking through the French Quarter in the footsteps of the terrorist Jabbar. Tom has put together the FBI videos in a sequential order, and we have provided you with a diagram, which we're going to get into right now. If you want to look at the info, go to Baldy and the Blonde radio show Facebook page, or also to look at the video, you have to go to the Baldy and the Blonde YouTube page, because we didn't have time to post it anyway. It's worth it because it's very interesting. There's some real problems with the timeline. So again, you can see the video if you go to the YouTube page for Baldy and the Blonde, and you can pull up the diagram and follow with the video on the Baldy and the Blonde radio show Facebook page.
So the reason I did a timeline in the first place, I thought, well, this will be easy. I'll just look at, because I knew that the FBI had posted a timeline. I thought, well, that's easy. They've done the work for me. I can go find that, and then we can use that to talk about events today.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, they just did this a couple of days ago, and I didn't learn about it until I think it was last night. I'm getting my days mixed up, but I think it was just last night that I first saw their timeline. And it was garbage.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to dismantle it, rearrange it, and make our own timeline, because of what you had mentioned in the last segment. Is we do that all the time professionally in the law, and because it really helps clear your thinking. So when I did that, and I must say the sad reality is going into doing that, I thought, I know going in, there's going to be things that are just that are anomalies or just cannot be explained, because they always are in these events. Nothing's ever straightforward.
Right.
And now I wasn't looking for it, but I thought by doing the timeline, I'll bet I come across it. Well, guess what? I did, and it's pretty significant.
All right, let's let it roll.
So this is all, again, all of this, the source is the FBI. And it starts out with, here's how garbage their timeline is. It says that he at 12:41 a.m., said he parked his truck and he walked to the corner of Governor Nichols and Royal Street.
Right.
Well, here's what makes that garbage. One, they didn't say where he parked his truck, and they had to know that. They just said he parked his truck and walked. Did he walk 10 feet? Did he walk 10 blocks? And then he was at that intersection for over an hour, or at least it was his. I don't know how long he was at that intersection because they didn't say. All I know is the next time he turns up is more than an hour from then. Yes.
I just want to interrupt and say that I was able to post the YouTube video to the Baldy and the Blonde radio show group on Facebook. So
good.
everything is there now.
Okay, thank you.
If you go to the Baldy and the Blonde radio show group on Facebook, you can see the sketch that Tom's referencing, as well as the sequential video of the footsteps through the French Quarter of the terrorist. Okay, sorry.
So there's an hour and 12 minutes unaccounted for. They just said he parked his truck at 12:41, and the next thing you know, it's 1:53 before they pick up their timeline.
I mean, what is
and where did he park his truck? And that, because that's important. Because they said he kept going back to his truck, I guess, to get the coolers. So now we have at 1:53, he is at the corner of Bourbon Street and St. Peter, and I think, and that's right by Preservation Hall. The video that the FBI posted, I think it's probably from the roof of Preservation Hall, looking down onto the street, and I think he's in front of the Crazy Corner bar.
Right.
It's hard to tell from that video, and it's been a while since I've been in the corner, but I want to go back down there, and then I'd be able to determine if that's exactly where he was, because I'd like to know exactly where he was.
Exactly.
But I do think he was in front of the Crazy Corner bar. Where it gets really interesting is that in that video, again, the source is the FBI. It's not the FBI's video. They got it from, again, I think Preservation Hall, but they posted on the FBI.gov website.
Yeah.
So this guy, Jabbar, is standing at that corner in front of, again, I think in front of Crazy Corner. He's standing there with a cooler. Looks like he's maybe checking his device of some kind. And then he does something very interesting. He takes a couple steps toward the street because he's standing on the sidewalk. Takes a couple steps toward Bourbon Street, turns his body 90 degrees. So he's facing, I think he's facing Canal Street. Okay. And then he extends his arm high in the air and very slowly and deliberately waves at somebody for 6.5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not like a little quick wave.
Yeah.
He's slowly, and his hand is high in the air. He's getting someone's attention.
And and in between, before he does that, he's looking down either at a phone or something.
Some kind of a device.
Yeah.
And then, again, he waves at someone for 6.5 seconds, and it's not like a casual, hey, what's up? No, it's clear. You will see that in the video. And I know it's hard to believe, and it's not the best thing for radio. I'm describing it the best I can. You do have to check out the video, and you'll see what I mean. Then, after that 6.5 second wave, he puts his head down, and he walks off frame. And here's where he goes. He heads away from Canal Street toward Esplanade Avenue. Oh, what's that?
Sorry. I was looking for the video, but
Jeez.
I accidentally hit the old theme song.
So then he walks from that intersection along Bourbon Street, and he walks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looks like 6 blocks toward Esplanade when he gets to Governor Nichols, and he makes a left and heads north toward Dauphine. And
He's going towards Rampart.
Going toward Rampart, yes. Away.
Tom isn't from here. We don't say north, south.
Well,
west,
yeah, but not everybody who's listening is from New Orleans. That's why I'm saying that.
That's true. Good point. Good point.
So, right, he's walking away from the river toward Rampart.
Yes.
And we know that because he's caught on a Ring camera. So the route that he takes is he goes down Bourbon Street till he gets to Governor Nichols. He turns left, and at 2:03 a.m., he is caught on a Ring camera. I think he's just a little bit shy of Dauphine, between Bourbon and Dauphine. Then he's caught on and he's empty-handed. He doesn't have a cooler with him. He's just walking empty-handed. Then 4 minutes and 16 seconds later, he walks past that same camera going the other direction, backtracking to where he just came from. Now, what's interesting about that is he's still empty-handed. We don't know where he's parked his truck because the FBI was too lazy. They didn't tell us. You could surmise maybe he's parked up by Rampart. When I first read that he parked his truck, I thought, there's no parking in the quarter.
No, especially on New Year's Eve.
No, even at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, there's no park. I've been down there many times, never sober, but I know sober enough to know you can't park anywhere. And so when I first read that, I thought, well, maybe he parked on the outskirts. So it makes sense that if his car was at Governor Nichols and Rampart, maybe he did find parking there. But here's the thing. Now, we only have about a minute left, and we'll pick it up on the other side. When he walked back after so-called going to his truck or wherever he was going, he's still empty-handed.
And how is that?
Well, so then he has to walk a half a mile back to where he was next picked up at the corner of Bourbon and Toulouse with that cooler. It took him 12 minutes to get there, which makes sense. It's a half-mile walk. Where did he get the cooler in the meantime? Why isn't that on video? And where's the explanation from the FBI? He's empty-handed the whole time that we see him.
Makes sense.
It makes no sense. Why did he go up there? And if it was to get the cooler, where's the cooler?
The person he waved to put it there.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Things are very suspicious and they don't add up.
Go to Baldy and the Blonde radio show to follow along with the video and the sketch. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. I'm Michelle Godin along with Tom Coates. We're here every Wednesday at 4, and you can listen to us anytime at baldyandtheblonde.com. After the show without commercials. Today we are devoting our time to a timeline and a video of the French Quarter terrorist Jabbar's footsteps through the quarter on the night of his cowardly, vicious attack. And may I take a moment here on behalf of Tom and I and extend our deepest condolences and sympathies to the victims of this coward. Anyway, we were walking you through. You can follow this at the Baldy and The Blonde radio show Facebook group, where we have a sketch of his movements and the video that Tom put together. It's a work in progress, but it's really good. It's sequential. It's the only one I've seen out there, and Tom did a great job on that. Take it away, Tommy.
Thank you. And yes, exactly. This was a horrible tragedy that should not have happened for the reasons that we talked about before. So many resources are being used for so many things that are not serious, not necessary, and this guy could have been found out
Right.
before this happened.
Instead of
He
Joe
should have been
Biden's
found out.
political, vindictive, insane attacks on normal Americans in furtherance of his divisive campaign, our Justice Department and all of our various well-funded agencies should have been working on what they're supposed to do, which is protect us from guys like this creep terrorist.
Instead, they let them in.
Yeah.
Not that was the case with this guy. I'm not talking about him specifically, but
Well, we don't know yet, do we?
yeah, what's brewing out there?
God
Just like
knows.
this guy was brewing out there as of just a couple weeks ago.
I mean, we
Right?
do know that
Who
the
else
car
is?
crossed the border. I don't know what it was doing in Mexico and how it was being outfitted. We also know that he crossed the border and went to Egypt for 13 days in the summer. So,
And
we'll
if you missed the first segment, you can listen to the show later on at baldyandtheblonde.com, and with no commercials. So it's about a 40-minute show when you listen that way. But there's some serious anomalies that with this guy's path through the quarter that just don't add up.
They do not.
And he waved to get somebody's attention. He waved for 6.5 seconds at somebody. And my point is, I think when he was waving, he was at the corner down by Preservation Hall, facing Canal Street. The FBI, all they have to do to see who he's waving at is look at cameras
Right.
half a block or a block down. Let's see who he's waving at. The problem is, they probably know who it is and don't want us to know who it is.
That's been their pattern, hasn't it?
Yes, that's been their
I mean,
pattern.
look
And that's
at-
why their timeline is such garbage. It shouldn't be up to me, a bald, stupid guy in a booth, to put together a cogent timeline. I should be able to take their timeline and run with it. That's what I thought I'd be able to do. Nope. I had to reorganize their timeline and add details, put it in order.
Listen, just look at how they've handled the so-called pipe bomber on January 6th, the one
Well, right.
serious thing. And when did they finally release the video? This week. And it appears to be altered. And they're just releasing it because the new sheriff's in town,
Right.
and they're worried about what's going to happen to their sorry asses when we have an actual Department of Justice.
Well, let's
working
listen-
for the people.
We do have a new sheriff in town, almost, but let's listen to the old sheriff, the current sheriff.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
listen. Let's listen to Joe's priorities and
Yeah,
how
let's
we
listen
got
to this.
in this boat.
Right.
According to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland.
Yeah, okay. So you know what? I didn't believe that. So I just today Googled a list of terror attacks in the U.S.
By white supremacists.
by white supremacists, going back, I think, starting with 9/11, I think is what I did. I don't recall for sure. And the list was pretty long and about, I don't know, dozens of attacks. But shouldn't we have heard about these? I was shocked. Like, how could there be so many? Well, there was like one victim for seriously, for 3/4 of them, there was one victim. It was, one victim is too many, but that doesn't mean it's a terrorist attack. It's somebody who was killed by a guy that the FBI says is a white supremacist, and therefore they call that a terrorist attack by a white supremacist. It's ridiculous. The overwhelming majority was like one person.
Right. With
That's
the
not a
exception
terror
of that
attack.
one church killing. I don't know of any.
Well, right, yeah, you can find some going back 20, 25, 30 years or whatever. But just because you can find some doesn't mean that Biden's correct in saying that's the number one
it's
But-
patently absurd.
It is absurd.
and it's not. It has turned out to be lethal to the
Yeah,
people
exactly.
of America. And he also opened our borders, and we don't know who's here. And we don't know what sleeper cells are associated with Mr. Jabbar or whoever else is in this city, whoever he was waving to, whoever he has had plans with, or has plans with, going forward, to the detriment of the people of New Orleans. Or, we have Mardi Gras coming, we have the Super Bowl, and we have our idiotic mayor asking for help. I mean, which makes us look so incompetent, because we are. And,
Jeez.
I don't understand how we could have been so unprepared. But I also say that, most local police departments are not terrorist watchdogs. That's on the shoulders of the people that get the billions of dollars of tax money from us, Mr. Biden, and his corrupt minions in the DOJ and the FBI.
Well, the reason that we talk about this president's corruption and his incompetence, and when I say incompetence, I mean literally he's incompetent.
Well, yes.
Right.
That's
I don't mean he's
non-compass
just bad at
mentis.
something. I mean he's literally an incompetent person.
Yes, he is.
And the whole world knows it.
Well, yes.
And yet he's still in office. The reason we go on about it, it's not because it's fun to joke about an old man.
No.
It's because seriously bad things happen, like this. This didn't just happen in a vacuum. It happened for a reason. There was a sequence of events that led to it, and one of them is this clown in office.
I mean, look, we don't know what the drones were doing. God knows how many drones there are flying over New Orleans, however many there were that night. Who knows? Because apparently all we care about is nonsensical non-crimes for political persecution of the Democrats' political enemies. And now it's gotten to be a matter of life and death. So I highly resent it. As a taxpayer and as a proud New Orleanian, I cannot forgive the fact that the blood is on the hands of the Democrat Party and the DOJ and the FBI and the chief minion, Joe Biden. Because you can't tell me that their best efforts have been put forth on behalf of protecting us, and that this Jabbar guy didn't leave any clues. For one thing, he was broadcasting live on Facebook, according to the news reports I've read, for 2 hours before he got here. I can tell you this, that when I posted, I swear I'm not kidding, a post about the federal government outlawing gas stoves, that post was removed by Facebook in,
Are you serious?
I think, 15 minutes.
Wow.
So, in real time, people are monitoring some of this stuff, right? Where were they on this?
Do we have a caller holding?
Yes.
I forgot about that.
I did too.
Yeah.
Let's
Do
go.
we have time to take it?
Yes.
We do? Well, let's take it. Who is it?
Matthew from home.
Matthew from Homa. All right. Matthew from Homa, welcome.
Michelle,
Hey, Matthew, how's it
I'm
going?
doing well, Baldy and Michelle. So,
Baldy and
you
Michelle,
were
great,
talking
thanks.
you were talking about how, I can call you Tom, too, if you prefer. So, you were talking about how the government was wasting their time going after the January 6ers, but their perspective is that we are the worst terrorists out there.
You're right. They've said it, and they mean it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we believe in crazy things. I mean, we're insane. Some of us even believe in a higher power than government.
Imagine that. There is no higher
Which
power
from
than
their-
government. Oh, well, I'm sorry, there is.
Now,
The
from their point of
climate
view,
god.
there is not.
Matthew, don't forget the climate god.
Oh, absolutely. Which
Yeah.
is another thing. They believe that we're totally crazy because we don't believe that humans are destroying the planet. It's okay for humans to reproduce.
That's
In
right.
fact, it's preferable for that to happen.
That's right.
Well, absolute terrorists there.
So, Matthew, what do you think? Do you think that the government bears some responsibility for the attack on New Orleans?
Well, ultimately, the attacker bears all the responsibility, but
Of course.
I would like to know who is in charge of briefing the new chief of police about these, what they call archers, these vehicle barriers that were
Yeah.
supposed to be placed up on the sidewalk.
She didn't know about
Because
those.
she didn't know about them, and nobody thought that, hey, maybe we ought to tell the old gal about these things.
Or how
That's
about
a
they just put them
serious
out? I
problem.
mean, why weren't they out? You know,
They weren't out because she didn't know they needed to be out.
I mean, but there's got to be some other people. All right, Matthew, it's
You
great
would
hearing
think.
from you as always, and
All right. Now,
Happy New Year to you, and
Happy New Year.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the call. Now, I got to say that I don't believe that they really believe that the white supremacists are a threat.
No, they don't.
They
that
don't
was
bel-
just a political ploy.
They don't believe that at all.
No.
They just now that doesn't mean they don't want to come after so-called white supremacists as if they're a threat, but they don't believe they're a threat. They're just going to go after them as if they are.
Gotcha.
I don't know why, but it's clear that that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean that was just an attempt to divert the process that was going to take place to challenge legally the election results, as Democrats have done improperly. Republicans were going to do properly on January 6th, and the Democrats had to derail that. So that's what went down that day, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others. We are Baldy and the Blonde. We will be back on the other side to conclude our discussion of the march through the French Quarter. BaldyandTheBlonde.com.
Welcome back to the Baldy and the Blonde Show. I'm Tom Kowitz with Michelle Godin. We have been talking, of course, about the New Year's Day terror attack here in New Orleans, actually just a few blocks from where we sit right now. And besides all the anomalies and unusual things, like, you know, the waving at somebody down the street, even though we're told he acted alone, he's getting somebody's attention and waving at something. Again, it's not a casual wave. It's a 6.5 second slow wave with his hand raised high above his head. And we know that he walked nearly a mile through the French Quarter, ostensibly to go get it, the other cooler, but we see him go past cameras, and he's not carrying a cooler ever. We never see him that way. So why is he going to that part of the quarter? So not only are there anomalies, there are inconsistencies, because here we are suggesting that there's probably accomplices, or at least one more accomplice. And remember, that was part of the story for a while.
So, Tom,
So he acted with somebody, now he acted alone. They're always
Yeah.
changing their stories.
you just made me think of something.
What's
So, assuming that his vehicle was parked over near Rampart, at the end of our timeline at 2:20, he's in front of the Dauphine Orleans
He's
Hotel.
at Toulouse and Bourbon at 2:20.
So if his car's on Rampart, what does he go to Rampart then? Back to Rampart?
Well, yeah. But again, they're not telling us where his truck was parked.
Okay.
But he did walk to that area. We don't know why. They're not saying. But he did walk from Bourbon and St. Peter
Yeah.
up to getting close to Rampart, which is the edge of the French Quarter, if you're not from around here. Oh, yeah. Michelle earlier said, I'm not from here. I've been here for more than 20 years. I'm not from here. But I know the quarter.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I know we don't say northeast, southwest, but people listening to the show, they don't know what we're talking about if we say Rampart
Well,
and
let
Canal
me just
and all
explain
that.
that. In New Orleans, people generally don't use north, south, west, east. They go, oh, rivers towards the river, towards the
Well, you
lake.
have to, because the French Quarter's at an angle, and it's not
the
directly.
crescent city.
It's not exactly
it's-
northeast, southwest.
right,
I know
it's-
that. I understand that.
Okay.
But we hope to get a lot of people viewing this, and when we say Rampart and Canal and Esplanade, they don't know what we're talking about.
Correct.
So just to help people with that, that's why I did
So
that.
this is a work in progress for us. We're going to stay on top of it and see what we can find out, because as you can see, the story's already dropped off the front page elsewhere.
The ever-changing story has already dropped off
Yeah.
the front page. Because remember, here we are making the case. He probably had other person or persons working with him, and that was the story for a little while.
Yes.
And then they changed that story. Stories are always changing in these things, and I'm with you. That's not a reflection on NOPD or
No.
the local police
They,
here.
they were heroic. I mean, I saw that video of all those cops ran to the bullets. This is no Uvalde, put it that
Yeah,
way.
right.
Where those cops
Right.
sat around while children were slaughtered in a school, I don't know what, discussing who was going to go in first. I have no idea, but our cops ran to the scene like heroes. So good on them. And obviously, according to some, the reason that Jabbar didn't have time to detonate the bombs, which were set up right by Pat O'Brien's on St. Peter and Bourbon, and the other one was supposed to be at Toulouse, but I think some people dragged it to another block, supposedly. I don't know. But the reason he couldn't set them off was because the cops killed him before he could do it. So, heroic cops. So
Now,
thank you
I do
for
have a
that.
soundbite. It's very intriguing. It's U.S. Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana.
Yeah, this was
He's
strange.
famous for having some cool little sound bites. This is not one of his cool, quippy, funny sound bites.
He was irate.
He was irate, and it's really interesting. I'll play it here in just a second. But he's concerned, you can tell, that unless we, and including him, really push hard for the truth, we're not going to get it. Now, the default setting should be we can all just assume we're going to get the truth. He already knows we're not going to get it unless we push for it.
That's
So, and he's also
agree.
he also says here, you'll hear it, catch these people. So he uses the plural.
Yeah.
Now I think that was maybe at the time when the story was more than one, but or maybe he has reason to believe himself personally that there's more than one. But anyway, here's U.S. Senator John Kennedy.
Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people.
These people.
Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there's things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth. And the people of New Orleans the truth. And the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very...
So he goes on to talk about it was a good decision to postpone the Sugar Bowl. And then he comes back later in the video and he basically says that I guarantee you're going to get the truth because I'm going to help make it happen. I'm going to push and yell and scream and jump on desks and I'm going to get the truth. So what's interesting is his assumption is we're not going to get it without great effort.
Well, let's put it this way. Look how they let us know what actually happened in the Las Vegas massacre.
Oh, please. Talk
Right.
about a timeline that makes no sense.
We've never heard anything sensible on that. The Boston Marathon, nothing. Just stupidity about a pressure cooker.
Well, and it's
even
true.
though that guy had been under the radar, as they always are.
As they always
like
are.
the
And
FBI,
because, I mean, look at the JFK.
the brothers have been
The
under
JFK story is
FBI's
still
radar.
being told 60-some years later.
Tom, you're not entitled to hear that.
So-
You're just a taxpayer.
In other words, though, I think what Senator Kennedy is worried about is if we don't get the truth. Now, he didn't say this. I'm guessing this. If we don't get the truth now, we're not getting it.
That's right. And our job here at Baldy and The Blonde is going to be to stay on top of this story and make sure we do get answers. Along with, I imagine, some other local news will be following it as well. But on the national scene, there's just too much happening.
Oh,
every
yeah.
day.
As you said, it just leaves the news cycle
gone.
quick. What we can do? Can we find the truth? Probably not. But
not.
what we can do.
Follow the clues.
We can follow the clues and we can clarify. We can take the same information that the FBI has, but turn it from garbage into something that's useful.
Yeah, so I would encourage all of y'all, because we're getting to the end of the show, to go to our Facebook group and join. For one thing, that would be helpful. The Baldy and the Blonde radio show group, and also to follow us on Twitter or X at Baldy Blonde, and we will be updating Tom's sequential video, and I think you'd find it real interesting to look at it with the map and see the guy waving and looking down. He's definitely
Oh, he sure looks like he's on a device communicating with
he's
somebody.
Definitely communicating.
Not verbally, but
I mean, trust your senses. If you trust your eyes and your ears, and nobody told you this guy is a terrorist, you would definitely think he was trying to communicate.
Absolutely,
with someone.
100%. That's what he's doing.
100%.
Now, the video, I will post that to baldyandtheblonde.com. It'll be probably tonight. And as the video explains its own self, is that it is a work in progress. It's a preliminary draft. We were really under the gun just to, well, one, we got jobs, and two, do some get some things ready for today's show. And that video, it's a little rough. I put it together in like maybe an hour.
Well, we're going to try to keep
And
it
the
up,
finished
too.
product, right? We're going to do a finished product that's much more polished and have a lot more information. That was just to get something online before we went on the air today.
So what I'd like to do is Tom and I will try to put together a little video or something explaining everything. This is Baldy and the Blonde. Follow us at Baldy and the Blonde on X, and we'll see you next week.